Hey guys, this is Holland Chambers Biology bringing to you your last evolution lecture for this unit, and it is known as Genetic Diversity Conservation, and of course we're going to end with Easter Island. So the first thing I want to talk about here is why is genetic diversity actually important when we are dealing with evolution? So again, genetic diversity is important because it helps to maintain the health of a population by including all the alleles, which are your genetics, that may be beneficial to resisting diseases, like right now with the coronavirus, different pests, viruses, predators, environmental stressors, like global warming and climate change. If the environment changes, a population that has higher variability or genetic diversity has a better chance of surviving, which means that they have a higher fitness. That fitness in turn will lead to a better natural selection. And without genetic diversity, natural selection cannot happen. So maintaining diversity gives a population a buffer against change, providing the availability or providing the flexibility to adapt. If the environment changes, a population that has higher variability will be better able to evolve and adapt in those new environments. If extreme situations like what we're having right now, drought, disease, climate change, that diversity could mean the survival of a population. So what we're talking about here, guys, is if you have no genetic diversity, what that means is you have no mutations, no variations, no change. That means that that population cannot adapt. Therefore, there must not be natural selection, which means that we're in Hardy-Weinberg principle where no evolution is happening. So if the environment is staying completely stable, then no evolution will happen because there's no need to. But that's really highly unlikely. Here's a classic example of why we need genetic diversity was the potato blight famine in 1850. So a bacteria or a protist ended up attacking all the potatoes in Ireland because they came from one strain. It was one species. And so that in turn, the Great Famine decimated 25% of the Irish population and was one of the factors responsible for increased immigration because of the people had no food. And so if that were to happen today, if we are not having high genetic diversity and a bacteria or a virus like the coronavirus attacks, then all of a sudden we're talking about a completely wiping out a species. So how does genetic diversity and evolution actually connect? So as seen with the potato famine, lack of genetic diversity can lead to the extinction of a species. Now keep in mind here, guys, that it's not just the potatoes that are dying off and going extinct. We're talking about the organisms that depend on those potatoes. So all the predators and prey, those dynamics within the food web, we're talking about the collapsing of an ecosystem. So lacking genetic diversity will collapse the ecosystem. And so if organisms are not adapting and evolving through genetic mutations and allele combinations, then one of two factors might be happening. Number one, the environment just has gone stagnant or isn't changing. So like the ocean, the coelacanth, which is right above, doesn't have to evolve. Things aren't changing. So therefore, there's no need to change. But that again is really unlikely when you're on land or near the surface of the ocean. So if they cannot adapt because we don't have genetic diversity, then everything gets wiped out. The world becomes stagnant, becomes barren and dead because we can't stop geological changes like plate tectonics and weather, and there's no organisms to adapt with that. So how does evolution and conservation now correlate? So the risk of extinction or population decline because of low genetic variation is predicted by evolutionary theorists. And so we're able to use our knowledge of evolution to then predict if a species is going to go extinct. So this was a classic case that happened with a cheetah population up in Oregon. Cheetahs actually are famously known for having low genetic variation, which means that when a virus, like the coronavirus, swept through that population in Oregon, it killed about 50% of the cheetahs. But yet it wasn't attacking the lions because the lions had a lot higher genetic variability. So scientists were startled in 1980 by the discovery of tremendous diversity of insects in the tropical forest. In one study of just 19 trees in Panama, 80% of the 1,200 beetle populations were discovered were previously unknown to science. Surprisingly, scientists have a better understanding of how many stars are in the galaxy than how many species are on Earth. So to give you guys an idea is that we still don't know all the genetic diversity that's on our planet, let alone in the ocean. And so one of the biggest things that, we're talking about here is that, if there's thousands and thousands, millions of different species on Earth, and the extinction rate is 0.01% a year, we're talking about 10,000 species go extinct every single year. Guys, it's 2020. So, that's a lot of species that are starting to go extinct, let alone we add in climate change. We've got some big problems going on here. So, evolution, conservation. Because of limited resources, conservationists must inevitably make a difficult decision. Which ecosystems should we try to preserve? So by studying evolution, by studying the changes of history of that ecosystem, of those species, we can start to correlate and understand where that ecosystem might be going, where those species might be going, in order to make those hard decisions on preserving that habitat. And so here you can also see that, since the 1500s, extinction rate of almost all the animals on our planet is just skyrocketing. And so they're saying that we are losing so much biodiversity at a rate that will half the number of the species on Earth within the next 100 years. Guys, 100 years, we are going to lose half of all the species on the planet. This is something that we definitely need to, be aware of. So biological diversity, which is a really well-known website, says that our planet now faces a global extinction crisis never witnessed by humankind. Scientists predict that more than 1 million species are on track for extinction in the coming decades. And they're actually calling this the sixth extinction. And this is not natural. This was not caused by an asteroid. This was not caused by overcompetition. This was actually caused by human impact. And that's what the biggest deal is. One of the, foremost stories of human impact and extinction is the collapse of Easter Island. If you ever get a chance, definitely check out the book by Jared Diamond, which is Collapse. It's an amazing novel that goes over the scientific research of various cultures and societies around the world that have gone extinct or are on the brink of extinction. Easter Island is quintessential with this because, long story short, these were highly educated sailors that came from the Marquesas Islands. They traveled, thousands of miles to find Easter Island, and they inhabited it because of over-competition on their mainland islands. So they left their mainland because of competition, founded Easter Island, which is also known as Rapa Nui. And in the 1400s, Easter Island, the islanders started to overuse their major resource, which is a palm tree. The trees were used to build the boats, to make fire, to cook, to build their houses. To make the spears to, kill the fish. And so this tree was essential. Once that crop started to decline, all of a sudden things just started to, do a domino effect. So what happened was that the rats were on the island, started breeding like crazy. There wasn't a lot of predators there. They started eating up the remaining crops and seeds. The island, which was historically known as a very vibrant, lush subtropical forest suddenly became almost a desert. These people ended up in Civil War riots because, guys, when there's no food left, what are you going to do? You're going to start eating each other. And so the Easter Islanders went from a population of 20,000 people to less than 100 when Captain Cook discovered them in the 1800s. And so by 1872, there's only 111 people left. And historians state that some of these reasons came back to some of the sailors that discovered Easter Island, brought with them smallpox. Some of the local mainland came out and actually took some of these guys as slaves. So all of these combined together, especially the collapse and the extinction of a major resource on their islands, pretty much obliterated their culture. And so what's happening here, guys, is that if we don't take notice of the past, if we don't take notice of what's happening now, like around the world, the species that are in it, we too are going to be facing an extinction way worse than Easter Island. So we're not just talking about, okay, a culture has disappeared or an island lost its trees. That's okay. We still have the rest of the world. Guys, what we're talking about here is that we are facing an extinction that could actually affect our planet, not just an island or one culture. We're talking about all cultures, everyone in it. And so this idea of a worldwide collapse and the extinction of life as we know it is something that we really, really need to really pay attention to. And so as we end evolution, we're actually going to be starting the unit on ecology and understanding that evolution and ecology and genetics, this is all one big basket that flows together, that without understanding one, you can't understand the other. And without knowing how to predict something that's going to happen, how are we able to save it? And if we're not outside enjoying nature, how are we going to love something in order to eventually preserve it as well? So I hope that at least this semester, you guys are really understanding how everything in biology that I've taught you guys so far is literally coming together at this moment in time. And it really is going to start to lie on your shoulders on what to do next with this information and, you know, where we're going to go in this world, because you guys are the next generation. You guys are the ones that are going to help either make or break it. And, you know, honestly, guys, I really hope that you guys make it. So this is Holland Chambers Biology. I'm bringing to you guys, again, another lecture on the evolution of genetic diversity, conservation, and Easter Island. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time online, and stay tuned for more. Checking out.